Hi everybody, it's Mark the Family Woodworker. It's going to be pretty hard to cover all the details of a build like this without a detailed story, and I just can't help myself when it comes to storytelling. So sit back and join me on this pretty cool little journey where we discover a new local hardwood supplier, finish the millwork on some rough-sawn oak stock, and design some tough-as-nails bedroom furniture that most average woodworkers can build for their own families. Best yet, this furniture will last a lifetime. Sometimes it pays to ask around, do a little research, and find a local wood supplier that isn't Lonard's Depot. While I did find an Amish community sawmill a couple of small towns away, I eventually located a local sawyer who has his own wood shop, kiln, and carries a bunch of rough-sawn hardwood lumber. Let's talk about design. First, this is going to be a queen-sized headboard, and I want to recycle some old beveled glasswork as a decorative piece in the center. The legs will be L-shaped, mitered at the corner, and then reinforced with oak dowels, maybe even adding some decorative finials on top of each post. The two bedside tables will be relatively small to fit inside this guest bedroom, 18 inches square on the top, 24 inches tall, with an inner shelf at 14 inches square. The legs will incorporate that same mission-style mitered leg design with dowel reinforcement. Our guest bedroom is pretty small and it's pretty plain, so it needs a little furniture love. Once we got the lumber over to the shop and we looked over how much we wound up buying, we reflected a bit on the quality and the price from our new supplier.
I think it would cost double, if not triple.
Of course, that was considering the cost of finished and sanded lumber from the home center, but we still didn't mind doing the final milling to save that money. So I did the initial markup, sorting the pieces out to best fit the legs and tabletops for the project, and then began to cut the longer boards down to more manageable lengths. This method also saves some of the lumber thickness if the board is slightly twisted. Cutting a long board in half reduces the severity of the twist and saves the amount of planing you have to do. We continued planing down all our project boards until they were flat and ready to go. Our finished thickness came in about 7/8 of an inch on all of our boards. Planing gave us tons of shavings from all that millwork. Now it's a good time to take the pressure off our novice woodworkers by telling you that you can do this same project with standard 1x3 and 1x6 oak lumber from your home center. There's no need to actually mill up your own stock. But my rough lumber still needed one straight edge to work with, so I used my ripping jig on the table saw to give me one good side. After that, I cut my planks down to a standard 2.5-inch width that we'll be using on all our leg construction. We'll need 16 individual pieces for those 8 legs. Wider cuts were used for the tabletops and the inner shelves. And here are the 48-inch cuts we put aside for the headboard legs. Moving on to the miter cuts for each of the leg boards, I calibrated the saw blade at exactly 45 degrees and carefully cut the length of each leg piece. I really love this design style found in Mission and Craftsman furniture because of the flexibility you get with the construction on the inside of the leg. I've used this leg design on other Mission furniture pieces like my Craftsman rocker, our new Mission-style dining table, and our sofa table too. This particular design is going to work great for those new tables and headboard posts too. The construction of the mitered leg is simple. By sticking some painter's tape along the outer edge, that'll allow the folding of the leg onto the glue joint. The whole leg is held in place by wrapping it with even more tape. With 8 legs to make, it's time for a tape and glue party. The next day we removed all the tape and checked our angles for a true 90-degree corner and felt confident that the rest of the construction would go well. Besides, it's fun to unwrap all the fruits of your labor like this. Sort of like opening packages at Christmas, except in this case I have 8 of the exact same gift to open. With the legs unwrapped, it was time to make the final trim cuts on those legs and posts. Table legs would finish out to a length of 23 inches, allowing for another inch of height from the tabletop. The headboard posts would trim out at that 48-inch mark. While a glued miter joint on oak end grain isn't the best of a joint, I'll add some hardwood dowels on one side of the leg to bring in extra support for that joint. You can see Mission and Craftsman style furniture often have dowels or splines on mitered legs, and that's pretty common. And it'll also help me to line up those dowels in a straight line with this simple drill jig. Clamped in place, and I can replicate the whole pattern on each leg so that they all match. I'll use one chopstick to get the glue down into the holes and then get these oak dowels hammered in. Sometimes the easy little woodshop hacks like this work best. A flush cut saw gets rid of most of that extra dowel length, but they'll need to be planed smooth before sanding. The upper part of each table will be framed in with a 14 by 14 inch apron that'll fit nicely inside a set of 4 legs. Again, calibrating the saw blade to a true 45 degrees helps to make sure that your corners glue up to make a tight, perfect square. One of those tools you normally don't think about getting for yourself but use in the shop all the time is a band clamp. It's perfect for pulling 4 corners of, well, pretty much anything together and then helping to hold it in place. We use it all the time in the shop. Now that the legs are done, we need to build 2 tabletops and 2 inner shelves. I've got some wider lumber milled up for the 14-inch shelves, but I still need to cut a clean 90-degree edge for a best glue-up. A 60-tooth trim blade on my table saw does a really nice job here, especially since at the time I didn't have a jointer in the shop. All edges for the tops and shelves were ready to go. Now it's time to glue up some panels. My lumber widths were better than 7 inches, so it only took 2 pieces to get me to that 14-inch shelf width. Again, no sweat if you're using store-bought lumber here. You'll just need to glue up enough flat boards to get you to the width you need. I'm also using a trick to hold those shelves by using those 45-degree angled cutoffs to make a 4-inch riser. Glued on the inside of the leg, each riser will act as a tab to hold the shelf assembly. Well, it seems it's my birthday because I've got even more presents to open, starting with these 14-inch table aprons and shelves. Since I'm in a birthday mood, I'll share a shop tip. Be sure to keep wax paper around the shop to keep the glue from dripping all over your clamps. Painter's tape works pretty good here too. Now we can cut the shelves to their final 14-inch square dimensions. This was my first chance to see if the design would actually all fit together tightly. Working with the table upside down, I fit the legs around the apron and was glad to see that they cornered up really nicely against the apron. Again, using that band clamp, it allowed me to hold the pieces together in order to flip it over and then test the fit of the 14-inch shelf. Taking care of a few little details before sanding, the dowels needed to be shaved down flat against the leg, and a sharp chisel or a hand plane works best to trim off that little excess. I spent quite a bit of time covering the leg construction details because the headboard posts or the legs are built exactly that same way. Using those 48-inch long planks at 2.5 inches wide, they're glued up on the beveled edge. There are also 2 longer pieces again at 2.5 inches wide to act as the cross supports for this queen headboard. The overall dimensions of the headboard will be 60 inches wide, 48 inches tall, and the upper headboard is 24 inches in width. Now you can choose to keep the headboard flat and simple, just filling in that frame with 1/2-inch oak plywood, but I'm recycling some saved beveled glass from an old entertainment center circa like 1988, where those 2 triangular pieces will be soldered together to give me a 12-inch square. If you like the idea of decorating the center of your headboard, you can use anything decorative like a 12-inch tile or an accent wood color. But this is where you'll need to build a custom frame to hold in whatever decoration you want to include. On my project, the gap between the 2 cross supports is 19 inches on both sides of the glass, where the top and bottom width is at 3 3/4 inches, allowing me enough stock to cut in a 1/4-inch rabbet edge on the back to hold the glass. My glass frame rabbeted edge will be a 1/2 inch deep into the thickness of the oak and a 1/4 inch from the edge. That'll be enough of a ledge for the glass to rest in on the back of the frame. With the frame components cut and test fitted, it needed to be centered and assembled first before attaching the cross supports to the 2 legs. Dowels were again used to hold the center frame in place and where the glued pieces add more rigidity to the headboard construction. My doweling tool wasn't really all that expensive, but it works pretty great for me. If you don't happen to have a doweling tool, you can use my homemade dowel jig idea for helping to lay out those holes and drilling in the legs. Space out your holes on a scrap piece of hardwood, drill the holes straight down on the drill press, and there's your jig ready to go. Let's run with a little montage music for the assembly. I'm not sure why I waited to finish cutting those 18-inch tabletops, but there you go, better late than never. Now that all the main components are built, sanding is always easier with the components in pieces, and though we will hit each assembled piece one more time with 320 grit hand sanding, it was a good time to complete the glue up and final assembly. I think we're ready to sand. Are we finally ready to sand? The headboard was essentially done, but the tables needed to be glued and clamped, checking to make sure they still sat flat on our level work table. Again, working upside down, the apron was attached to the legs, flipped right side up while the glue was still wet, so that the shelf could be inserted onto those inner triangular shelf rests. You can also use blue painter's tape or bungee cords to help pull the legs together, but band clamps work best here. I went back and forth on how best to finish the table construction. I could have used screws on the underside or even wooden dowels, but I was so confident in the squared up glue joints that brad nails were the simple choice. I never expect to see these tables come apart, especially after the tabletop is attached to the apron. I had a little bit of a camera goof up and I didn't record the drilling of the 1/2-inch Forstner bit holes on the underside of the apron. The holes are wide enough to hide the head of those cabinet screws I'm using, countersunk a 1/4 inch down from the top. With a 2.5-inch apron, a 1/4 inch hole depth, and a 2 3/4 inch cabinet screw, the screw will penetrate at least a 1/2 inch into the oak tabletop. My spacing should be 1 inch of overhang on all sides, so these little 1, 2, 3 blocks help to keep my legs centered on the top. With the table construction finally complete, I still had to close up the back of the headboard with the 1/2-inch oak plywood. If you choose to leave the headboard upper section completely open without decoration, you simply need to cut the plywood to fit tightly inside the back of the legs. I'm leaving the width 2 inches shorter than the cross support so that you can hide the plywood edge down from the top and bottom of the headboard. You'll never see the open plywood edge unless you pull the headboard away from the wall. Screwing it in place provides some additional rigidity to the overall headboard construction too. I'm also going to add a couple of decorative blocks on the top of each headboard post, which is optional of course. And now I think it's time to add the finishes. I chose to lighten the red oak and give it more of a beach house feel, almost with the coloration and wood grain that you could find in really dry gray driftwood. And the white overtones in the finished furniture are going to work really well with the gray painted walls in the guest bedroom. My son Matt took over on finishing, starting with a pre-stain conditioner to help even out the absorption of the stain. The white oil-based stain was next, and it was a subtle change to the wood tone, still allowing you to see all of the oak wood grain. It actually looks pretty great considering it's a kind of a non-standard stain color. After it dried for 24 hours, we started the first of 3 coats of satin polyurethane to finish the furniture. Now that the polyurethane was dry, I needed to secure the beveled glass into the back of the headboard. I thought about using steel push points, but was worried it might crack the fragile glasswork. In the end, that hot glue actually did a pretty nice job holding in the corners and then caulking in the 4 sides. I also needed to drill a 1/4 inch bolt hole into the steel bed frame to attach the headboard, but that was relatively easy. The headboard attaches pretty easily to that ready-made steel bed frame. I think the finished furniture is going to look fantastic, and though this used some pretty simple and basic build techniques, the outcome looks better and is built better than some of the headboards and bedside tables you'll find at higher-end furniture stores. I think this is a project most novice woodworkers can tackle, even with store-bought lumber, a table saw, a drill, and a basic sander. See the free plans posted on our website, and we hope you maybe give this project a try. In terms of a cost summary, my rough sawn lumber was only about $120, but I had to do all the finished millwork, of course. The benefit was that I wound up with stock that was almost 1 inch thick, and my total cost was still under $250 for all 3 finished pieces. No problem using lumberyard hardwood at 3/4 of an inch thick either, but you're going to pay a little more for all of that pre-finishing. Still paying retail at $355 for this well-built furniture? Awesome. Our guest bedroom looks pretty great now, including some custom-built lamps that sit atop each side table. Link to the lamp project will be at the end of the video. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. We don't ask for donations or paid memberships, so your thumbs up and a subscription to our channel really help us out. Take care.